Most people think that a roast rack of lamb is reserved for fancy restaurants or special occasions. But what if I told you that you could make this show-stopping dish at home in less than 30 minutes? With minimal effort and simple ingredients, you'll get that restaurant quality lamb that is crispy on the outside, juicy on the inside, and packed with garlic and rosemary flavor. It is perfect for a holiday feast, a dinner party, or even a weeknight upgrade. And today, I'll show you exactly how to do it with just a few easy steps. Let's get started. First, let's talk about the star of the show, rack of lamb. When shopping for it, you'll often hear the term Frenched, but what does that mean? It simply refers to removing the excess meat and trimming the fat from the rib bones, making it easier to slice and serve. It doesn't change the flavor, just the presentation. I usually buy my rack of lamb from Costco, which comes already Frenched. But if yours isn't, you can ask your butcher to do it for you. Even when a rack is Frenched, you might still find a thick fat on top. Whether to trim it or not is totally a personal preference, because let's face it, fat equals flavor. You can leave it on or do what I do and leave a thin layer for juiciness, but trim off any excess. These racks are already well trimmed, so I'll leave them as they are. But if yours has a thick fat cap, just take a sharp knife and shave some of it off. I'm using 2 racks of lamb, which is perfect for serving 8 chops, about 4 per person. If you're cooking for a crowd, you can easily multiply this recipe. When shopping, it's good to check the weight and pick racks that are similar in size. This way, they'll cook evenly and finish at the same time. These ones are just under 1.5 pounds each, which is a great size. Now, one question you might have, should you wash the lamb? The answer is no. Washing raw meat isn't necessary and can actually spread bacteria around your sink and countertops. The high heat of the oven will take care of anything harmful, so there's no need to rinse. What is important though is patting the racks dry with paper towels. This removes excess moisture, helps the marinade stick better, and ensures you get a great crust when roasting. Next, we're going to score the fat cap. Using a sharp knife, lightly cut a crosshatch pattern, making sure to cut through the fat, but not into the meat. This does 2 things. 1, helps the marinade soak in more flavor, and 2, allows the fat to render better as it roasts, giving you that crispy golden crust. Moving on, we'll start by seasoning our racks of lamb with 1 teaspoon of kosher salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper on all sides. This builds the foundation of flavor. Once seasoned, we will transfer them onto a sheet pan lined with parchment paper and move on to making the marinade. Into a small bowl, we'll combine 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 4 cloves of pressed garlic, 1 tablespoon of finely chopped fresh rosemary, 1 cup of finely chopped fresh parsley, 1/2 teaspoon of lemon zest, and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. We'll give it a good mix until everything is well combined. Now, before we move on, a couple of things to note here. I use rosemary and parsley, but thyme would also work beautifully here. Though, keep in mind, fresh herbs like rosemary and thyme are stronger than milder ones like parsley, so a small amount goes a long way. You can use the dried versions like dried rosemary, but since they're even more potent, I'd recommend using half the amount. Now let's get that flavor-packed marinade onto the lamb. Using our hands or a spoon, we'll spread the herb mixture over the top and sides of each rack. There's no need to coat the underside, just focus on the meaty parts where the flavor will shine. If you have the time, you can let it sit on the counter for 30 minutes or so, but if you're short on time, you can go straight to roasting. Also, if you're planning ahead, you can marinate it overnight. Just transfer the lamb to an airtight container and refrigerate. When ready to cook, let it sit out for about 30 minutes before roasting, so it's not going into the oven cold. We'll pop them into a preheated 450 degrees oven. They will roast for 18 to 20 minutes or until the internal temperature at the thickest part reaches 125 degrees for medium rare. The best way to check doneness is with an instant read thermometer. Just insert it into the thickest part of the meat without touching the bone for the most accurate reading. If you prefer a different level of doneness, use the chart on the screen as a guide. That being said, cooking times may vary slightly depending on the weight of your racks. Also, don't forget about carryover cooking. As the lamb rests, the residual heat will continue to cook it, raising the temperature by about 5 degrees. Once the lamb is roasted, we'll loosely cover it with foil and let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes. This step is crucial as it allows the juices to redistribute, keeping the meat tender and juicy when we slice into it. While it is resting, I want to show you a quick mint yogurt sauce that you can make to serve it with. This sauce is cool, creamy, and pairs perfectly with the rich and savory lamb. That being said, you've got options. While I'm making a yogurt-based sauce, I also have the British mint sauce and mint chimichurri on the blog if you prefer a different twist. Into a bowl, we'll add 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt, half a cup of chopped fresh mint leaves, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 2 cloves of garlic, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. We'll stir it all together until smooth and well combined. On to serving. When it is time to slice, starting from the backside makes it much easier. I find that cutting from the front often meets resistance, so here's a simple trick for clean and even slices. Position the rack meat side down, then make a small cut between the bases of the rib bones to guide your knife. Flip the rack over and stand it vertically. As you cut, your knife should glide through effortlessly, giving you smooth, even lamb chops. To serve, we'll place a bowl of the yogurt mint sauce on a large plate, then arrange the lamb chops around it. I like to add a few fresh herbs for decoration, which I think makes the dish look even more inviting, but that's totally optional. A few last tips before we wrap up. If you have leftovers, it is best to keep the rack unsliced to retain as much juice as possible. But if it's already cut, store it in an airtight container in the fridge for up to 3-4 days. If you want to store it longer, you can freeze it for 2 to 3 months. You can keep it whole or sliced. Just make sure to use a freezer-safe bag and remove as much air as possible. When you're ready to eat, thaw it overnight in the fridge before reheating. While you can use a microwave for reheating, the best way to keep the lamb juicy and evenly heated is to warm it in a low heat, somewhere around 275 to 300 degree oven for 5 to 10 minutes. That wraps it up for today. As always, you can find the full recipe on the blog along with ingredient substitutions, side dish ideas, and more tips to make this dish your own. If you're a fan of lamb, you might also like my roasted leg of lamb recipe. It's just as flavorful and perfect for any occasion. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Along with ingredient substitutions. Now, wait, it's just like no sound. You know what I mean? Like I want to see. Okay, done.